The Galactic Alliance Hall was a massive dome of silver and glass, floating in the middle of deep space. Inside, alien delegates from thousands of worlds whispered in strange languages. Tall, blue-skinned Vortari ambassadors raised their crystal scepters. Feathered Calvoran nobles fluffed their vibrant wings. Glowing Cliquic drones hummed softly as they discussed matters of peace, trade, and war. In the far back corner, almost ignored, stood the human delegation, a small group wearing simple dark uniforms with a single symbol on their chest: Earth. Commander David Reeve watched everything with sharp brown eyes. At first glance, he did not look impressive. He was young, barely 35, with short black hair and a calm expression. But inside him burned a fire he hid carefully. He knew most aliens saw humans as outsiders, a primitive species newly arrived on the galactic stage. They called humans stubborn, reckless, emotional, and unpredictable. They said humans were too soft to survive in the cold politics of space. David had heard the whispered insults before. He felt them now as he stood quietly beside Ambassador Irene Blake, the official human voice in the Alliance. A large holographic map floated in the center of the chamber, showing dozens of red marks, spreading across Alliance-controlled space. Each red mark represented a destroyed colony, a lost station, or a vanished patrol ship. Reeve's eyes narrowed at the symbol in the center of the destruction. It looked like a twisted black spiral, the sign of a mysterious enemy only recently reported: the Ravagers. The Ravagers were like nothing the Alliance had ever faced. Their ships were alive, made from a strange metal-flesh hybrid that grew and shifted like muscles under skin. They appeared without warning, striking fast and leaving only bone-dry worlds behind them. They did not take prisoners. They did not open communications. They did not leave survivors. High Chancellor Vortok, a hulking reptilian leader from the Dracon species, slammed his fist upon his podium. The sound echoed, making the hall tremble. The Ravagers have now erased 14 outer colonies, 3 mining stations, and 2 scout wings. If we do not take action, they will reach our inner sectors within weeks. The delegates erupted into shouting. Some wanted to send entire fleets. Others demanded retreat to safer worlds. Panic washed across the room like wildfire. Through all the chaos, David Reeve stayed still, listening, thinking. Ambassador Irene Blake raised her hand slowly. "Esteemed Council," she said in a clear, controlled voice. "Humanity offers assistance. Our fleet is small, but we will deploy it in defense of Alliance territory." A ripple of laughter rolled across the alien chambers. Lady Solara, a tall, snake-like figure with emerald scales and golden eyes, hissed with amusement. "Humans? Your ships are barely classified as military vessels. You explore and you carry supplies. You are not warriors." Reeve's jaw tightened, but Irene stayed calm. "We have experience fighting unexpected enemies. Humanity has survived world wars, pandemics, and disasters beyond our early understanding. We may not have the most advanced technology, but we know how to adapt." A short, insectoid delegate clicked his mandibles. "This is not your concern, humans. Let the older species handle this crisis." Reeve took a deep breath. He leaned toward Irene and whispered, "They won't allow us a place at the war table. We must earn it." Irene gave a small nod and stepped back. She had made the offer. The insult was understood. Humanity would act alone. That night, aboard Earth's flagship, the SS Vanguard, Reeve met with his crew in the narrow metal briefing room. The lights were dim, humming quietly above. At the center stood a round table scattered with tactical maps and glowing data screens. Lieutenant Sophia Hale, a spirited young pilot with wild red hair and fierce green eyes, leaned over the table. "Commander, we don't have enough ships to launch a direct assault. The Alliance won't share their intel. We're on our own." Reeve tapped a finger on a blinking red dot marked on the outer sectors. Here, waypoint Delta 7. It's the last known location before the Ravagers change course. If we intercept them there, we might discover their objective. An older man, Chief Engineer Marcus Liu, scratched his gray beard thoughtfully. We risk everything on a guess? Reeve looked at his team, his voice steady but full of stubborn resolve. We fight not for glory or recognition. We fight because if the Alliance falls, Earth falls too. Humanity protects its own, even when our allies doubt us. One by one, the crew members straightened. Sophia smirked confidently. Marcus nodded with quiet pride. Communications Officer Priya Nadar adjusted her headset with determination. They all knew the risks. None hesitated. The next day, as Reeve's small task force of 5 human vessels detached from Alliance space dock, alien spectators watched with a mixture of curiosity and pity. Few believed the humans would return. Some whispered the word suicidal. Reeve ignored them. A message flashed on the Admiral's private communicator. It was from Irene. Good luck, David. Humanity is watching you. With engines blazing bright, the small human fleet jumped into hyperspace. As they vanished into the stars, Commander Reeve clenched his fists behind his back and made a silent promise to himself, and to all who doubted humanity. They would not run, they would not hide, they would fight, and prove humanity belonged among the stars. The human fleet slipped out of hyperspace like silver arrows cutting through black velvet. 5 ships, small, sturdy, and brave, appeared against a backdrop of glowing red nebulae and distant dying stars. Commander David Reeve stood at the forward window of the SS Vanguard, hands clasped behind his back, gaze fixed on the emptiness before them. Somewhere out there, the Ravagers were waiting. Scan the sector, he ordered quietly. Lieutenant Priya Nadar's fingers danced over her console. Beeps filled the bridge as data flickered across transparent screens. No life signs yet, Commander. Radiation is strong. I'm detecting ship debris, possibly from the last Alliance patrol, torn apart. Piloting Officer Sophia Hale gave a low whistle. Feels like a graveyard. Indeed, the space around Delta 7 looked cursed. Ghostly wreckage drifted slowly. Broken hulls of old freighters, skeletal remains of scout drones, twisted metal hanging like frozen spiderwebs. Lieutenant Hale guided the Vanguard carefully through the debris, engines softly pulsing blue. Everyone on board stayed silent, each person listening to the hum of the ship's heart and their own rapid breathing. In the engineering bay below, Marcus Liu wiped sweat from his forehead. Pipes rattled around him as he checked core readings. Better keep us steady, he muttered over comms. One wrong move and we'll crash into someone's tombstone. Up on the bridge, Priya suddenly tensed. Commander, something is moving up ahead. Reeve stepped forward as a new shape came into view beyond the field of debris. It was massive, dark and organic-looking, like a giant metal heart with rib-like structures wrapped around it. It pulsed faintly with a sickly green glow. The wreck of a Ravager hive ship, Priya whispered. No, Reeve corrected sharply, eyes narrowing. It's alive. The wreck slowly unfolded like a nightmare flower. Long, jointed limbs spread out, each tipped with razor-sharp talons. Deep inside, a central eye opened, burning red. Hale's hands flew to the controls. It's charging weapons! Evasive! Reeve barked. The Vanguard spun right as a beam of crimson energy cut through space where the ship had been seconds before. The human fleet scattered, 5 ships dodging through the graveyard like desperate fish escaping a monstrous predator. Sophia's voice cracked with focused excitement. They're faster than Alliance reports claimed. Priya, signal the rest. Fire pattern Beta 7, Reeve commanded. Human vessels launched coordinated bursts. Bright blue nano-missiles spiraled toward the creature, aiming for thin points in its hide. Explosions popped across its surface, tearing away pieces of living metal. The beast screeched, its sound transmitted not through space, but straight into their minds, a psychic howl that made every human clench their teeth in pain. Chief Liu bit back a groan as lights flickered. "Hold formation!" Reeves shouted, refusing to flinch. "Hit it harder!" A sudden thought struck him. "Target the eye! All ships, concentrate fire!" Rapid-fire railguns released storm after storm of tungsten slugs, ripping into the creature's most sensitive core. With an almost heartbreaking shriek, the Ravager ship convulsed, tentacles curling inward, before exploding in a silent blaze of sickly green fire. Shock waves tumbled, debris all around the Vanguard. For a moment, the human fleet bobbed in dead stillness, breaths shaky, hearts racing, minds reeling from the psychic attack. They witnessed their victory. Sophia was the first to speak, voice shaking with adrenaline. "One down!" Priya stared into her sensors. "Commander, I am—" She swallowed. Detecting 20 more Ravager signatures, closing in from all vectors. Reeves' jaw tightened. It wasn't a scout. It was bait. He tapped his comm badge. "All ships fall back to defensive positions. Prepare for emergency hypershift." Priya added urgently, "Sir, hyperspace signals are being jammed. They're cutting off our escape route." On screen, shadows appeared like swarming insects. Ravager ships, big and small, spilled into the region, their twisted tendrils sparked with plasma. Commander Reeves' heartbeat pounded in his ears, but his voice held calm steel. "Listen up." He spoke to every member of his fleet through open comms. "We've come too far to die quietly. We will not be picked off like helpless prey. We strike fast, we strike smart, and we survive. For Earth and for each other." Every crew member straightened. Fear didn't leave, but something stronger rose behind it. Resolve. Sophia breathed deeply. "Commander, I have a crazy idea." Reeve turned toward her. "I'm listening. We use the debris field, draw them in tight, then Marcus rigs our fuel tanks for a controlled blast. Creates a shockwave powerful enough to damage their fleet, even if only momentarily. In the chaos, we break the jamming and escape." Marcus's voice crackled through. "That could work, or it could turn us into space dust." Reeves' eyes blazed. "Prepare it." Even as they spoke, green death approached. Hull alarms blared. The Vanguard's shields began to glow from incoming fire. Still, the human ships lured the Ravagers into the heart of the wreckage. Tentacles ripped through old metal, chasing them like wolves through ruins. Marcus shouted, "Fuel cells ready for detonation!" "Now!" Reeve commanded. With a roar of light, a massive blue-white explosion tore from the human ship's rear fuel banks. The shockwave shot out in a ripple, cracking Ravager hulls and tossing their fighters into spinning confusion. "Hypershift re-enabled!" cried Priya. "Plotting jump!" "Punch it!" Reeve growled. In a blinding surge, the human fleet leapt into hyperspace, narrowly escaping the collapsing, blood-red battlefield behind them. As the stars stretched into lines, Reeve allowed himself a rare, quiet smile. Sophia leaned back with a breathless laugh. "I told you humans don't quit." "Easy." Commander Reeve looked at his brave crew, exhausted, battered, but burning bright. This was only the beginning. The human fleet burst out of hyperspace into a region of quiet stars just beyond the Alliance core. The SS Vanguard wobbled, smoke leaking from its left engine as sparks flickered across damaged panels. Inside, the air was thick with exhaustion and relief. Commander David Reeve stood in the middle of the bridge, shoulders tight but eyes sharp. Around him, his crew watched flickering screens, trying to catch their breath. Lieutenant Sophia Hale slumped in her pilot's seat with sweat on her forehead. That was too close. Chief Engineer Marcus Liu appeared on a broken hollow screen, wiping. oil from his hands. I've got engines held together with emergency clamps and prayers. We need repairs. Fast. Reeve nodded. Put everything you've got into stabilizing the core. Priya, send our battle data back to Ambassador Blake. The Alliance needs proof of what we just survived. Lieutenant Priya Nadar typed rapidly, uploading recordings of the Ravagers, the psychic scream, and the desperate explosion that saved them. Transmission sent, sir. But what if the Council still ignores us? Reeve's face hardened. Then we keep saving them anyway. He stepped away from the bridge windows and walked down the narrow metallic corridor toward the medical bay. Each step felt heavier than the last. Inside, a young communications officer lay on a medical bed, Ensign Leo Park. He had taken a psychic hit during the mental attack. His eyes were closed, body trembling slightly. Dr. Alara Finch pressed a damp cloth to his forehead. She looked up at Reeve. His mind was pushed near breaking point. These creatures don't just attack the body. They attack hope. Reeve stared at the pale, silent young man. Guilt tightened around his heart. He had ordered Leo into that fight. He had brought this fleet into danger. He forced himself to stand a little straighter. He will wake? Reeve asked. Ilara nodded slowly. If he knows someone still believes in him. Reeve gently rested a hand on Leo's shoulder. You did well, Ensign, he whispered. Rest now, because we still need you. Leaving the medical bay, Reeve returned to the bridge just as Priya received a new transmission. The Alliance Council seal flickered hazily on the main screen. Most of the bridge crew held their breath. High Chancellor Vortak's scaly face appeared, eyes narrow but curious. Commander Reeve, he rumbled, we received your data report. You speak of living ships, of psychic attacks, of massive losses. Why should we believe any of this? Before Reeve could speak, Ambassador Irene Blake stepped into view beside Vortak. Because, she said firmly, humans have never been known to lie when lives are on the line. I request emergency war talks. There was a long pause. Vortak's jaw tightened. Finally, he gave the smallest of nods. Very well. Bring the Vanguard to the Aurelian War Room in 2 cycles. We will hear your case. The screen went dark. The crew exhaled collectively. Sophia grinned. We finally have their attention. Reeve shook his head. Attention is not the same as trust. We need undeniable proof. Something strong enough to force them into action. Priya looked confused. Stronger than almost dying? Reeve paced. Slowly, thoughts racing. Outside the windows, stars drifted silently. They need to witness the threat firsthand, on their doorstep. That means we must find the Ravagers again and track them closer to Alliance space. Marcus's voice came back over comms. You want to chase these monsters again? Commander, with respect, this ship can barely stay together. Sophia stood. We'll make it work. We always do. Reeve's lips finally tugged into a small smile. That's the spirit. Priya, scan for any nearby colonies or outposts recently gone dark. The Ravagers move fast, but we've seen how they hunt. We know their pattern now. Hours passed as repairs continued. Sparks flew, plates were welded, and weary engineers didn't stop even to eat. Finally, Priya's eyes widened at her console. Sir, I've found something. Mining outpost Jericho, on the moon of Valara 6. Last contact, 40 hours ago. No response now. Reeve felt his pulse slow, the calm before the storm. Set a course. Maximum speed. The crew moved as one. Engines groaned, lights flickered, and the Vanguard jumped toward their next battle. When they arrived at Valara 6's orbit, the sight took their breath away. Below lay the gray, cratered moon, normally glowing with mining lights, now dark and lifeless. Black scars cut across its surface like claw marks. At least 3 Ravager hive ships floated above it, slowly feeding on the remains of the outpost's machinery. Pulsating veins of green energy ran along their sides. Sophia's hand trembled on the controls. "Commander? We're outnumbered 10-1. Reeves stared through the glass with fierce determination. His heart pounded. Not with fear, but righteous fury. "Open a secure transmission to Chancellor Vortak," he ordered Priya. Seconds later, the council symbol appeared once more. Vortak's face flickered into view just as Reeves stepped aside, revealing the terrible scene outside their window. "These are the Ravagers," Reeves said, voice calm, deadly serious. "They are here now, inside your territory, and if we fall today, they will reach your homeworlds by tomorrow. Humanity will fight them alone if we must. But know this, if we die, you will be next." Several silent, shocked seconds passed. Then Vortak's scales shifted with alarm as he gave a single command. "Stand by, Commander Reeve. Alliance reinforcements are on their way." Sophia exhaled shakily. Priya wiped tears from her eyes. Reeve turned back toward the window, narrowing his gaze at the monstrous ships feeding on the lifeless moon. His voice dropped almost to a whisper, not a plea, but a promise. "Hold fast, humanity," he murmured. "Our finest hour is coming." The moon of Valara 6 trembled in the shadow of death. 3 massive Ravager hive ships hovered overhead like giant black hearts, pulsing with sickly green veins. From their bellies dropped twisted drones, feeding on the scraps of the destroyed, mining outpost below. The human fleet, tiny in comparison, floated at a distance, battle-scarred, smoke trailing from damaged panels. Commander David Reeves stood at the front window of the SS Vanguard, eyes blazing with fierce resolve. The bridge was tense. Everyone knew that if help didn't arrive soon, they wouldn't survive a second fight. "Any sign of Alliance reinforcements?" Reeve asked, voice steady. Lieutenant Priya Nadar shook her head at her sensor screen. "Nothing yet, sir. We are still alone." Pilot Sophia Hales stared into the growing darkness outside. "They promised backup." "Where are they?" Reeve did not answer. He turned slowly, scanning the faces of his exhausted crew. Their uniforms were dirty, with oil, their eyes red with fatigue, but none of them stepped away from their stations. In their silence, there was something powerful, something unbreakable. Marcus Liu called in from engineering, voice rough but determined. "Weapons at 50% strength, shields at 30. That's all I've got." Reeve raised his chin. "It's enough. Prepare all ships for engagement." Priya's eyes widened. "Commander? We can't possibly—" "We hold the line," Reeve said calmly. "Until the Alliance arrives. If we run now, those things reach another world by sunrise." A beat of silence passed. Then one by one, every crew member straightened with pride. "We'll make them earn every inch," Sophia whispered fiercely. The human ships moved forward in a tight phalanx, aiming directly at the monstrous hive ships. Almost immediately, the Ravagers reacted. Long, jagged tentacles whipped outward, glowing with savage energy. Their psychic wail struck again, slamming into human minds like a hammer of despair. Reeve felt the scream rip through his skull, but he stayed standing, refusing to fall. "Focus fire!" he barked. "Target their joints! Don't let them surround us!" The space around them exploded in blazing light. Railgun slugs tore into rubbery armor. Nano-missiles spiraled into weak spots, detonating blue fire, but the enemy just kept coming. Ravager drones swarmed like furious hornets, biting into human hulls. One small support ship, the Artemis, was split open by a metallic claw. Flames burst from its side. Sophia cried out as debris flew past the Vanguard's windows. "The Artemis is going down!" Reeve clenched his fists. "Get any survivors into escape pods now!" Even through chaos, the humans coordinated with perfect, desperate precision. They pushed forward, refusing to surrender a single meter of space. The bridge shook violently as green plasma slammed into their shields. Sparks rained down from cracked systems. Marcus yelled into the comms, "Hull integrity at 22%. One more direct hit and we're scrap." Still, Reeve stayed calm. "Keep firing!" Priya wiped tears and sweat from her cheeks, shouting as she tapped her controls. "Commander, Ravager reinforcements detected. 6 additional hive ships inbound." Sophia's heart sank. "We're finished!" Just then, a burst of golden light tore across the battlefield. A sleek Alliance cruiser exploded out of hyperspace, weapons blazing. Then another and another. Dozens of battle-class warships poured into the sky above Valara 6. Their hulls shone silver and gold, lasers firing in flawless lines. On the bridge screen, High Chancellor Vortak appeared, eyes fierce. "Commander Reeve, stand down. The Alliance answers your call." Reeve did not step back. Instead, he lifted his voice with powerful command. "All forces, form ranks alongside the human fleet. These monsters came to break us. Today we prove we are unbreakable." Alliance ships swung into formation beside the battered humans. Vortari beam destroyers fired brilliant yellow lances of energy. Calvaran's cyclone bombers released vortex torpedoes. Clikic drone carriers unleashed clouds of smart drones. Together they struck as one. For the first time, the Ravagers faltered. Hive ships recoiled under the rain of concentrated fire. Their tentacles burned, their armor cracked. Their psychic scream changed. Less confident now, tinged with confusion. Priya's voice trembled with hope. "Their lines are breaking!" Reeve's smile was sharp and cold. "Press the attack! Give them nowhere to run!" A final wave of cannon fire erupted from the combined fleets. One by one, the monstrous hive ships exploded into green and black fire, their pieces spiraling into space like ash in a storm. When the last Ravager vessel burst into shards, a hush fell across the battlefield. On board the Vanguard, Sophia lowered her shaking hands from the controls. We did it!" Marcus, Lou's tired laughter crackled over comms. "Against every odd!" Ambassador Irene Blake appeared on the screen, eyes bright with emotion. "Commander Reeve, Earth, and now the entire Alliance, owes you a debt. Your bravery forced us to act before it was too late." Reeve simply saluted. "Humanity stands ready as long as there is breath in our lungs." High Chancellor Vortak bowed his head with newfound respect. "From this moment forward, humans are no longer just members of the Alliance. You are our shield." The bridge of the Vanguard erupted into cheers. Tears streamed down faces as each crew member hugged the one beside them. In that joyful chaos, Reeve looked out at the starlit battlefield and whispered to himself, "Let them remember today, the day humanity stood tallest among the stars." The celebration after the Battle of Valara 6 echoed across every Alliance channel. On hundreds of worlds, crowds cheered the unexpected heroes from Earth. Children pointed at pictures of Commander David Reeve and his brave crew, whispering stories of human courage. Across muddy trenches and golden palaces alike, one truth began spreading. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. But the SS Vanguard did not rest. Inside the ship's dim briefing room, Reeve stood over a holographic map full of red markers, signs of Ravager activity. His jaw was tight. Standing beside him, Ambassador Irene Blake had just arrived via shuttle, her normally calm face troubled. "We destroyed 3 hives at Valara," she said quietly. "Yet look at this." She tapped one red point. It spread into dozens more. "They are multiplying, faster than anything we've recorded, and they are adapting to our weapons." Reeve's eyes darkened. "That wasn't their main force. It was just a test." Chief Engineer Marcus Liu paced nearby. "If that was a test, we won't survive the real assault unless we find their home nest and burn it to dust." Lieutenant Priya Nadar entered, carrying a tablet pressed to her chest. Her voice trembled with urgency. "Commander, we intercepted A strange transmission from the wreckage at Volara. It's highly encrypted, but I've decoded a fragment. She set it on the table. A string of alien symbols flickered, then translated. Primary spawning world coordinates, unknown, Sector 14th, Zeta. Ambassador Blake gasped. Sector 14? That's practically inside Alliance Heartland. A chill swept through them. If the Ravagers were nesting among core systems, entire civilizations could fall before warning could be sent. Reeve exhaled slowly, controlling his emotions. We need to locate that spawning world ahead of them. No committees, no politics, just action. Ambassador Blake stared at him. If we go into Sector 4th without approval, we violate Alliance command. They will remove you from duty. Reeve looked at his gathered officers. This isn't about orders anymore. This is about survival. I'm asking you all, will you follow? Without hesitation, Sophia Hale slapped her hand on the table. Till my last breath, Priya stepped forward. Earth raised me to stand. During storms, not hide. Marcus smirked. Someone has to keep this bucket of bolts running. Blake said nothing for a long moment. Then she touched her chest where her Earth badge rested and nodded. Very well. I will personally take responsibility before the Council. Within the hour, the Vanguard and 2 other repaired human ships left Volara 6 behind, masked under. A false cargo manifest. They slipped into hyperspace like thieves at midnight, heading toward a place forbidden by Alliance treaty, Sector 14 Zeta. During the journey, the mood aboard the Vanguard was tense but hopeful. In the small mess hall, crew members sipped recycled coffee and whispered among themselves. I heard we're tracking down the birthplace of those monsters, a young mechanic mumbled. Good, replied another, her hands trembling slightly, as she tightened a bolt on her mug. Better end this fast than wait for them to knock on Earth's door. In his private quarters, Reeve finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. He took out a small photo, a simple image of Earth at dusk, the sky glowing orange behind a child's playground. It reminded him why he fought, not for medals or honor, but to make sure that ordinary people could live ordinary, peaceful lives. He put the photo away and looked in the mirror above his desk. His eyes were red, his face lined with fatigue he hadn't felt a year ago. Still, his spirit remained sharp. We will finish this, he whispered to his reflection. Hours later, Priya's voice echoed over the ship's speakers. Commander Reeve to the bridge. Reeve arrived quickly. The starlight outside the window had taken on a strange purple hue. Gas clouds drifted like velvet curtains, hiding whatever waited beyond. Priya pointed at a swirling mass of energy on her screen. We're approaching Sector 14 Zeta. Something is interfering with our sensors. Electromagnetic fields unusual, very dense. Could be a cloaking veil. Slow patrol speed, Reeve ordered. All crew to alert stations. The Vanguard crawled deeper into the mysterious gas cloud. Visibility dropped to nearly nothing. Suddenly, Sophia gasped. Through the mist, dozens, no hundreds, of dark shapes emerged. Ravager hive ships, hundreds of them, far larger than any they had seen before. Their bodies were anchored to jagged space rocks, like gigantic spiders nesting in a web, pulsing with green light. The nesting world wasn't a planet. It was a hidden asteroid field, alive with growing monsters. Priya's voice cracked with terror. It's a spawning ground. Reeve stared, horrified but unflinching. Send all data to the Alliance immediately, label it Code Red, then cut transmission. If they detect us, we die before we can escape. The crew worked frantically as the Vanguard drifted slowly backward, trying to retreat quietly. Suddenly, massive red eyes opened along the side of the nearest hive. Tentacles twitched. Priya whispered, Commander, they've seen us. Reeve didn't hesitate. All engines, maximum, run! The Vanguard shot backward like a bullet as hive ships began unfolding, their psychic scream already pressing against human minds. Sophia gritted her teeth, pushing the engines far beyond safety limits. Come on, girl, hold together! Marcus shouted over comms from engineering, fighting back sparks and fire. I can give you 30 more seconds of speed. After that, we explode. Reeve stood tall at the center of the bridge, refusing fear. 30 seconds is enough. Push! As they tore through the gas cloud, fiery plasma bolts streaked past them, barely missing the hull. The ship shook violently. Priya screamed a countdown over comms. 15 seconds! 10, 9. At the last second, a shimmering hole in space appeared, the edge of the interference field. Sophia flung the Vanguard through it like a spear. Behind them, the first Ravager hive ship crashed into the barrier and howled with fury as it failed to follow. Outside the cloud, they stabilized. Marcus's voice came through, choking with smoke, but relieved. We're clear, and somehow still alive. Sophia wiped sweat from her brow. That was insane. Priya looked up from her console. Her eyes were wide but shining. Transmission sent. If the Alliance ignores this, then they deserve whatever comes. Reeve stared out the window toward the dark cloud behind them. His heart pounded with grim purpose. This was their nest, he said softly. We've found their heart. Now we strike before they flood the galaxy. He turned to his loyal crew with fierce gratitude. Hold fast, humans, he murmured, voice full of pride and fire. The greatest battle of our lives is coming. The SS Vanguard floated in a quiet corner of space, its hull scorched, but spirit unbroken. Commander David Reeve stood on the bridge, staring at a holographic map glowing with danger. Red dots filled the screen, each a Ravager hive ship, ready to attack. Behind him, the crew watched silently, waiting for his next move. Ambassador Irene Blake's voice broke the tense hush. The Alliance Council has seen your transmission. You were right. The spawning ground is real. They are finally mobilizing. Priya Nadar looked hopeful. Reinforcements? Blake nodded. The largest fleet in Alliance history is gathering at planet Aurelian. But it will take them several days. Until then, we are on our own. A heavy silence followed. Sophia Hale moved her shoulders back and muttered, So nothing's changed. We still have to hold the line. Marcus Liu appeared on a nearby screen, wiping engine grease from his fingers. Commander, the Vanguard's frame is cracked, our weapons are exhausted, and our engines are begging for mercy. We can't keep fighting like this. Reeve didn't speak right away. His eyes were shadowed with fatigue, but his voice was steady. I know. That's why we need a new plan. One that doesn't require us to win through brute force. He tapped the console and brought up a different view. Blue lines surrounded the Ravager nest in Sector 14th, a map of nearby asteroid belts, nebulae, and unstable gravity pockets. These creatures are fast and terrifying, Reeve said quietly, but they're still animals. Animals follow instincts. They protect their heart. Sophia leaned in. You want to draw them out? Exactly, Reeve replied. We lure a large chunk of the hive away from the nest, using ourselves as bait. Once they chase us to a safe trap zone, we collapse the asteroid belt behind us with a chain of bombs. The debris field will slow them down, buying time for the Alliance fleet to arrive. Marcus frowned. That's crazy. Priya bit her lip. That might be brilliant. Ambassador Blake placed a hand on Reeve's shoulder. I'll contact nearby Alliance destroyers and ask for volunteers. But you understand, this is almost impossible. Reeve simply nodded. Almost impossible is what humanity does best. 12 hours later, 6 ships floated silently in the shadow of a cold asteroid, the Vanguard, its sister frigates Resolute and Falcon, and 3 nervous Alliance vessels, A blue Vortari scout ship, a Calvaron bomber, and a Click carrier pulsing with tiny drone lights. Commander Reeve surveyed the small task force through the front window. Fleet status? Priya answered from her console. All ships report ready. Explosives are planted along the asteroid belt. Detonation range set. Sophia cracked her knuckles. Let's stir the hornet's nest. Reeve stood tall. Transmit the challenge signal. A pulse shot from the Vanguard, a mocking electronic message aimed directly at the Ravager nest. For a moment, the darkness stayed quiet. Then, a terrible red glow appeared. Hive ships unfurled like waking giants. Dozens began moving. Huge tentacled beasts drifting toward the tiny human force with furious speed. They're chasing us, Priya whispered. Reeve pointed forward. Retreat course. Now. Do not let them catch us until we reach the belt. The small fleet raced through space. Behind them, the swarm grew, glowing brighter. Ravager drones spilled ahead like insects hungry for blood. Their psychic scream slammed into human minds. Sophia winced but kept her hand steady on the controls. Just a little farther. Priya counted down, voice trembling. 5,000 kilometers. 3,000. 1,000. The ship shot between two large asteroids decorated with hidden explosive packs. Now! Reeve thundered. Priya slammed the detonation trigger. A massive chain reaction lit the void. Asteroids shattered inward, exploding with violent force. Tons of rock burst apart, forming a swirling storm of debris. It crushed into the Ravager swarm like a stone avalanche. Tentacles curled. Hive ships shrieked in psychic agony. One slammed into a spinning boulder and cracked open, spraying molten green light. Another spiraled out of control. Sophia cheered. It's working! We've trapped them! But Reeve's eyes stayed sharp. Scan, he said. How many made it through? Priya quickly scanned the screen, and her face went pale. Commander, dozens are still pushing through. The biggest ones are breaking apart the debris with sheer force. Reeve felt a chill in his chest. The Ravagers were adapting again. Marcus shouted over comms, Sir, the Vanguard's engines just blew a fuse. We can't outrun them anymore. Sophia slammed her fist on the console. They'll be on us in minutes. Reeve looked around at his crew. Exhausted, brakes failing, hearts pounding. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something fiercer. He stepped to the center of the bridge. Listen to me, he said calmly. We have one job. Hold this line until the Alliance arrives. You are the bravest souls I have ever known. If we die today, we die standing, so that countless others may live. Sophia lifted her chin. Then we hold. Priya wiped her eyes, but kept typing. Sending final distress beacon. Marcus's voice crackled over comms with soft pride. Weapons online, ready to fight. Outside, the remaining Ravager ships roared in terrible anger, forcing their way through the asteroid storm. Their eyes blazed, tentacles readied. Reeve drew a long, deep breath. Then he spoke the words that had become their war cry. For Earth, for humanity, the crew answered in unison. The Vanguard charged toward the oncoming monsters, weapons blazing blue fire across black space. Far behind them, in distant sectors, Alliance fleets were finally racing to join the battle. But for now, only a handful of humans stood between the galaxy and its doom. They would not break. The Vanguard shook like a dying creature as green Ravager plasma slammed against its shields. Sparks flew across the bridge. Smoke curled from broken panels. Still, Commander David Reeve stood straight at the center, his voice a steady force. In the chaos. Keep firing, he ordered. Outside, the sky was filled with madness. Ravager hive ships clawed forward through floating asteroid debris, their red eyes glowing with hate. Tentacles writhed, smashing broken rocks aside. Only 5 defending ships remained. The wounded Vanguard, the battered human frigates Resolute and Falcon, and 2 trembling Alliance volunteers, a Vortari scout and a Klikic drone carrier. On the bridge, Priya Nadar clung to her console. 1 minute until our shields fail. Sophia Hale shot the Vanguard between spinning boulders, barely avoiding another energy blast. Her hands were blistered, eyes burning with smoke, but she kept flying. Come on, Reeve. How long do we need to stall? Reeve's jaw tightened. Just a few minutes more. Alliance reinforcements are almost here. Marcus Liu's voice broke over the comms from the engine room. Commander, we lost power to the port thrusters. I've redirected everything into the guns. That's all I can do. Reeve didn't hesitate. Understood. Prepare the main. Railgun for overcharge. That will rip the gun apart, Marcus warned. Reeve looked at the approaching hive ship. We won't need it after this. Outside, the largest Ravager drifted forward like a floating mountain of bone and metal. Its mouth opened, forming a glowing cannon ready to fire a blast that could vaporize the entire Vanguard. Target that mouth, Reeve said calmly. Everything we've got. Sophia grinned fiercely and lowered the ship's nose toward death. The Resolute and Falcon moved beside the Vanguard, their scarred hulls glittering with bravery. At once, all 3 human ships lit up. Railguns blazed, nano-missiles streaked, plasma bursts roared. The Ravager screeched, its mouth cannon overloaded. For a moment it burned bright green, then exploded, ripping the hive apart from the inside. Jagged pieces slammed into nearby enemies. On the Vanguard, cheers erupted, quickly broken as another Ravager beam struck the drone carrier behind them. The Klikic ship shattered, blooming into a deadly cloud of fire. Priya's eyes filled with tears. Carrier down! Reeve's voice was softer now, full of aching pride. They bought us precious seconds. We won't waste them. The 2 remaining human frigates were barely holding together. Their captains signaled Reeve. Commander, Captain Yasmin of the Resolute said, blood on her forehead. We will ram them. Clear a path for you. Reeve stared at her. No, you won't survive. Captain Yasmin smiled. Soft, brave. Humanity survives through sacrifice. Before Reeve could stop them, the Resolute and Falcon accelerated toward the nearest Ravager. Ships. Engines screamed. On impact, the frigates detonated their cores, erupting in twin burning suns. 2 more hive ships were destroyed in the blast. The shockwave hurled the Vanguard away like a leaf in a storm. Smoke filled the bridge. Priya sobbed, covering her mouth as she whispered, They're gone. Sophia wiped her eyes roughly and screamed, Commander, we're the last one! Reeve's heart cracked yet burned brighter. They died for our mission, he reminded himself. We cannot fail now. From above, a brilliant light washed across the darkness. Dozens of hyperspace. Portals opening at once, sleek silver and gold vessels burst through. Alliance reinforcements at last. High Chancellor Vortak's voice thundered through the comms. Commander Reeve, stand down! The Alliance takes the field! Sophia nearly collapsed with relief. Thank God! Reeve stayed standing, though his knees shook. This is Reeve. The Vanguard will support from rear positions. Vortak laughed, a fierce, proud sound. Nonsense! Humanity leads this charge. Across the stars, hundreds of Alliance ships formed a massive spear behind the Vanguard. Vortari destroyers, Calvaran bombers, Klikic drone swarms, and Dracon war barges, all pointing toward the heart of the Ravager swarm. Reeve turned to his weary crew. One last push? Priya nodded with a weak smile. With you until the end. Marcus coughed smoke from his lungs. Railgun's gone, but we've still got spirit. Sophia slammed the throttle forward. Let's make history, the Vanguard. Surged toward the enemy, leading a roaring storm of ships behind it. Lasers, missiles, and beams blazed so bright they turned space into daylight. Ravager ships howled in confusion and rage as hundreds of coordinated volleys hammered them. The Vanguard fired its last cannon. Another Ravager cracked apart. All around, hive ships exploded, but still more came. As battle raged, Priya suddenly gasped. "Commander, something bigger is waking, deep in the nest. I think it's their queen." On the holographic map, a colossal shape stirred within the Ravager's spawning clouds, far larger than any hive ship seen before. Tentacles the size of skyscrapers, a central eye like a red sun. Reeve felt ice slide down his spine. He gripped the railing tighter. This battle isn't the end, he realized, voice trembling but strong. It's the beginning. The Vanguard flew onward, tiny yet fearless, toward a new nightmare rising from the shadows, the true heart of the Ravagers. Still, not a single human faltered. They had come too far to turn back now. The sky above Sector 14 burned with the light of war. Alliance ships swarmed in perfect formation, firing everything they had into the heart of the Ravager nest. Hive ships exploded one after another, turning into clouds of glowing green dust. And yet, even as victory seemed near, a greater terror began to rise from the darkness below. A monstrous shadow moved within the thick cloud of asteroids, slow, ancient, unstoppable. Its form broke through like a nightmare, a colossal ship creature, unlike anything seen before. Its body was wider than a continent, made of black bone and pulsing muscle. From its core opened a single gigantic red eye, blazing like a cruel star. Priya Nadar stared at the sensors, her hands trembling. "Commander." "That's not a hive ship." Commander David Reeves' face paled. He already knew what he was seeing. "It's the Queen," he whispered. The bridge of the Vanguard fell silent. Ambassador Irene Blake's voice came through the comms. "Reeve, fall back. Let the capital ships engage it." But Reeve did not. "Move!" His eyes were locked on the screen. "No," he said quietly. "If that thing escapes, it will grow 1,000 more hives. It has to die here." High Chancellor Vortak's voice snapped across the channel. "Then all fleets, converge on the Queen!" Alliance warships turned fearlessly toward the titanic creature. Gleaming beams of pure energy sliced through space. Thousands of missiles spiraled toward the Queen's armored hide. The response was immediate. The Queen roared, not with sound, but with a psychic blast so powerful it shook minds across 5 systems. Crew members screamed and dropped to their knees as terror flooded their hearts. Some ships spun wildly out of control. Tentacles the size of mountains lashed out, smashing destroyers in two and hurling their remains into distant asteroids. Priya clutched her head. "It's inside my mind." Reeve stepped behind her and put a firm hand on her shoulder. His voice rang clear, cutting through the fog of fear. "Remember who you are. You are human. Fear does not own you." Priya took a shaky breath, then nodded once. The psychic pain lessened. Sophia Hale flew the Vanguard closer, weaving through wreckage like a dancer. "Commander, she's taking out our front line like paper." Reeve's mind raced. "She's using psychic attack to break our will. We must blind her, shut down her mental reach." "But how?" Priya asked. Reeve tapped the console, pulling up blueprints. "There's an energy node glowing just under her main eye. If we destroy that, it might cut her psychic range. Prepare all weapons." "Sir," Marcus warned, appearing on a smoke-filled engineering screen. "The Vanguard has 1 torpedo left. 1 shot only." "Then," Reeve said, "we make it count." The Vanguard shot forward alone, straight toward the Queen. Nearby Alliance ships shouted warnings, begging the humans to turn back, but Sophia pushed harder, flying low under whipping tentacles. Flames streaked past as debris tumbled, chaotic around them. Priya locked the torpedo onto the glowing node. Target acquired! The Queen sensed danger. Her red eye swiveled and fixed on the tiny human ship. A beam of crackling green death charged in her pupil, aimed to melt the Vanguard into atoms. Fire! Reeve shouted. Sophia hit the trigger. The last torpedo blasted free, arcing across space toward the energy node. The Queen's beam fired at the same time, slicing toward the Vanguard. Two lights crossed in the dark, one green, one silver. A moment later, the torpedo struck. A massive explosion tore open the side of the Queen. Her psychic scream cut off instantly, throwing every Ravager ship around her into confusion. The green beam aimed at the Vanguard veered aside at the last second barely, missing their hull. The ship shook violently but stayed alive. Cheers erupted on the bridge as Priya wiped sweat from her brow. She's wounded, Commander. Reeve pointed forward with fierce fire in his eyes. All fleets, now! While she's blind, hit her with everything you've got. Across the battlefield, Alliance forces surged like a tidal wave. Vortari beam destroyers fired golden lances into the Queen's gaping wound. Calvaran bombers launched high-yield vortex torpedoes. Click drones swarmed her tendrils and ate through muscle-like armor. Even damaged ships crawled back into the fight, desperate to strike while there was hope. The Queen bellowed silently, thrashing wildly. Her skin split. Fire erupted from deep inside. But still she lived, her eye dimming but not dying. Marcus's strained voice came through. She won't go down without one last push. Sophia looked at Reeve. We're out of weapons? Reeve's eyes were calm, almost too calm. Then we become the weapon. Silence fell. Priya's hands flew to her mouth. You mean to ram her? Reeve nodded silently. If the Vanguard explodes inside that wound, it might set off a chain reaction. Sophia's voice broke. We won't survive. Reeve looked at each of them, Priya, Sophia, Marcus on their screens, faces smeared with smoke and tears. He saw fear and love, the kind only found in those who have stared death in the face and refused to bow. We've done our duty, Reeve said softly. Humanity will never forget us. But if this is how we end, let it be the blow that saves the galaxy. Sophia's eyes filled with emotion, but she smiled a fierce, unbroken smile. Then let's make it count. Priya's hands shook as she brought the engines to full power. Setting collision course for Earth, and for every soul out. They're still breathing. The Vanguard roared forward, blazing like a comet of steel and courage, aimed directly for the heart of the dying Queen. Behind them, the fleets watched in stunned silence as the tiny human ship sped into legend. For humanity, Reeve whispered. The bridge lights glowed red as collision alarms screamed. 100 meters, 50, 10, and then, brilliant white light swallowed everything. A blinding white light washed across Sector 14th. For one breathless moment, the stars themselves seemed to stop and watch. Then came the explosion. The Vanguard, humanity's battered warship, slammed into the wounded heart of the Ravager Queen and detonated. A supernova of blue and gold fire tore through her body. The creature's red eye exploded like a dying sun, tentacles flailing wildly before turning to ash. A shockwave rolled across the battlefield, swallowing hive ships by the dozens. Every Ravager connected to the Queen went still, then burst apart. One after another, enemy ships changed from unstoppable monsters to drifting corpses, dissolving into silent clouds of dust. On the Alliance command ship, High Chancellor Vortak watched in awe. His massive reptilian claws tightened on the rail. The humans did it, he whispered. Across the fleet, cheers mixed with tears. Alien commanders raised their voices in disbelief and admiration. Never had they seen such madness or such glory. But the price was unbearable. Commander David Reeve, Sophia Hale, Priya Nadar, Marcus Liu, the entire Vanguard crew were gone, consumed in their final heroic strike. Ambassador Irene Blake pressed a trembling hand to her lips. Her eyes were wet, her voice soft. "You saved us all, you magnificent fools." Minutes passed before a signal came from Earth. The message was short, spoken by a young girl in a school uniform as she looked into the camera with proud, shining eyes. "To the stars, to the brave. Thank you for showing the galaxy who we truly are." Weeks later, the Galactic Alliance gathered in the Grand Crystal Hall. For the first time in recorded history, banners of every species hung side by side, and in the center of them all was the blue and white flag of Earth. Thousands watched as a beautiful black monument was unveiled. Names were carved deeply into its surface. At the top, in bold silver letters, it simply said, "The crew of the SS Vanguard, humanity's finest." High Chancellor Vortak stepped forward, speaking in a voice so powerful it made the windows shake. "Once we mocked humans. We called them weak. We believed they were too emotional, too chaotic, too reckless to matter. We were wrong. When the Ravagers came, when even the strongest of our worlds trembled with fear, humanity ran toward the fire. With broken ships and stubborn hearts, they fought monsters born from nightmares. When hope was gone, they gave everything, not for victory, but so others could live. We will never question humanity again. And may every child of every world remember this truth. Do not underestimate Earth, because humans never die quietly." The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Click drones flashed bright lights in salute. Calvaran singers released cries of honor. Even the stone-hearted Dracon warriors touched their chests in respect. Ambassador Irene Blake wiped her eyes, then turned and looked up at the monument. Softly, she whispered, "Rest well, my friends. You've changed everything." Back on Earth, the sky was clear over a quiet graveyard hill. A young boy placed a single red flower on a grave marked, "David Reeve, Commander Hero." He looked up at his mother beside him. "Mom," he asked, "do you think humans will always be brave?" She knelt and brushed his hair gently. "Bravery isn't about not being afraid, sweetheart. It's about choosing to stand even when you are afraid. That's what your father believed." The boy nodded slowly. A breeze stirred the Earth flag above them. High above, in the dark ocean of stars, the Alliance fleets began rebuilding. They fashioned newer, smarter ships, many using human strategies and human designs. Across entire galaxies, one saying spread like wildfire: "Fight with a human's heart, and you will never truly lose." One final message from Commander Reeve, recorded before his last mission, was played across every channel during the dedication of a new Alliance military academy. "We are humans. We are stubborn, loud, illogical, and often afraid. But we love fiercely, dream wildly, and refuse to bow, even to impossible odds. If the universe tests us again, remember this: we have survived everything fate ever threw at us, and we will survive this too. Not because we are the strongest, but because we are the ones who never stop trying." The screen faded to black. The words remained, etched into the hearts of billions across countless worlds. And forevermore, the galaxy would speak of that day, the day Earth's smallest fleet taught the stars what it truly meant to be human.